So there's kind of this work-life script that I feel like I assumed I had to follow. And, work is one way. You're going to work hard. You're going to get a job where you work, a lot more than 40 hours a week. And that's just how it is. What you really showed me through this process is that script is made up. That's not actually true. It doesn't have to be true. And so we can kind of tear that up and throw that script away and really use our value and our gifts to focus on the things that actually do matter.
Hi, I'm Blake Schofield, founder and CEO of The Bridge to Fulfillment. Mom to 3, USA Today top 10 professional coach, and former corporate executive who got tired of sacrificing my life for a comfortable paycheck. My mission is to expand perspectives to achieve greater impact at home and work without sacrifice. This is The Bridge to Fulfillment. I'm really excited to share Molly's client success story with you today. It's been a while since we've done some client success stories on the podcast, even though I've continued to be serving clients and transforming their career in life over the last year or so of a lot of change and shifting in my life and obviously my location. I often hear from you guys that the client success stories are some of the most impactful podcast episodes and really help you see what's possible in terms of creating the career and life that you want. And so with that said, I'm excited for you to dive in, meet Molly, and hear about her personal journey, how this has opened up and expanded so much opportunity for her, and really understanding her gifts, her secret sauce, and how to show up as an even stronger leader in her life and in her career. Molly, I'm so excited to have you here today, sharing your client success story and your journey to help others. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's been quite a journey and quite enlightening. So thank you for all of your work and guiding me in this process.
It's been an honor. I'm excited to kind of dig in and share your story. One of the reasons I started this podcast back in 2019 was that I wanted to create a space to show people what was really possible. That in a world where the majority of people are unfulfilled and unhappy in their careers and believe that that's just the way that it is, the more we see and hear stories of people come to really understand their gifts and how they can work best and find fulfillment in their careers and ultimately in their lives, I think the more we recognize what's possible for us. So thank you for coming on and just sharing some of your journey to help provide that inspiration for others. Would you share a little bit with the audience about your background and what was sort of going on that led you to reach out to me and The Bridge to Fulfillment?
Yeah, my background is in consulting and a whole lot of jobs that kind of felt like inertia. Like one job sort of led to the next because it was like the logical thing to go to. It sort of felt like, I don't know if I felt like I had much choice in it, but it was just kind of like, oh, this makes sense. This came up. I should do that. And so I think I reached a point where I had been working with a startup for a while and I didn't see that as kind of where I needed to be. And I hadn't yet created the space to really take an intentional look to say, what do I actually want? So when I stopped kind of running around and stopped doing all the jobs and one to the next, what is it that I actually want? And I was kind of struggling with that question. And I talked to my husband about it and I had found you. And he was like, you should take this time. I support you in this, which I felt very grateful for. But I don't think we often take the time to really create that space and also do it with expertise and guidance, because I don't feel like we can come to these things on our own. Sometimes we need someone to help support the process and bring in insights that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think the first time I hired a coach, it was really sort of out of the box for me. And I had gotten to a place of maybe desperation is probably the right word, right? The place where you realize what you're doing isn't working. And I think for most of us, it takes that, at least the first couple of times, it takes hitting that breakdown moment or that wall to realize I need help and it's not working. And then over time, at least I've seen for myself and for my clients, that then you start to realize, oh, it never had to be that hard. I can ask for help from experts, and that can become a way of life of which my life gets so much easier. I know before you came into the Bridge to Fulfillment, you had done some personal investing in yourself before. You had experienced that impact. What would you say to people who maybe haven't invested in themselves before and maybe have some trepidation around asking for help or feeling like they are deserving of, or that this type of thing might work for them if they've never experienced it?
I always say that I'm so grateful for having spent the time because I wouldn't want to get much later in life not having gone through it. I think we need to be taking care of ourselves in many different ways. And also, particularly as women, we're not great at that sometimes, but it's hard to reach insights on your own doing the same things, talking to the same people or going through the same process. And so just to have an opportunity for someone else to come in and create a space and guide and challenge is really enlightening. I'm a coach myself too. So I coach other people, and the best coaches that I know have coaches. And so even if you feel like you know everything and you know what to do and you know what to say, you can't really coach yourself. And you also don't see kind of what's in front of you or what's blocking you. It's almost like there's like a cobweb or a spider web in front of yourself, and someone else can come in and kind of like get that away so that you can see clearly. And that's really what the process has felt like. And also, you bring quite a lot of expertise and experience over so many years, lifetime of different rules that you've had, and you've kind of packaged it and boiled it down into something that's really accessible. But you've taken all of this knowledge and you've distilled it down into a process that's pretty easy to follow. Easy in the sense that it's easy to understand and it's easy to follow the directions, but it's not easy because you have to do the work. And so to have someone guide the work, there's no other way around it, to really dig into things has been extraordinary. And then it's really a combination of doing the work on my own. And I feel like I sometimes had a grasp on it. And then we would have our calls together and I was like, oh, this is what you meant. This is what it is. And then there'd be a whole layer we would uncover that I wouldn't have been able to find on my own.
I love that. I would say probably one of the most common things I hear from clients is that we went 5 layers deeper than they expected. And as somebody who naturally has seen the depth in things and studied things to a degree that I think most people don't, for me, what I found consistently is that it's getting to the deeper layers that actually is where we really win in life. When you came in, you, like I said, you'd had this successful career, you had been moving up, but you were missing the intentionality of what do I want next and the clarity on what do I want next? What is that right next move for me? Which is a very common place when I end up finding clients. At the time, how did you feel about the amount of clarity you had about who you were and what you wanted versus what you know now about that for yourself?
I think I had some clarity, but almost like surface level of, okay, here's my resume, here's the things that I've done. And I kept doing things that were the last thing that I was good at, but I felt like I didn't want to be shoehorned into something. And so, there was, I would say, like surface level clarity of kind of where I was. And then, so digging in, even if a couple notes on that clarity did come through later, there were other notes that came through that I think that there's a deeper level of clarity that I found, and also clarity on my own volition of I'm a participant in this process too. So there's a note on, it's almost like this empowerment that sometimes I think women in particular miss of, wait a minute, I'm an equal partner in the process of finding a job or in an interview or the relationship with a company. And so that was probably one of my biggest aha moments of, I don't need to just kind of hope I get a job or take a job that's presented to me. Really, they should be so lucky to have me. I mean, I don't mean it like that, but there's a lot of power in showing up to say, this is what I want and what I need. And you know what? You'll be better off and I'll be better off if we have all of these things met.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. You said when you came to me, right, it's this, I had been going along in this career. I often find that there's usually some trigger point or something that happens that is the moment of which we say, I need help. What was that for you?
It was, I had been in the process of knowing I needed to step away from my last job and not knowing what I wanted to do next. That's not inertia. So before I spend time and effort going on a job search and looking for something, I had a gap in knowing what that something was. That's not just, I'll just keep doing the same thing that I've been doing and hopefully that works. So the trigger was really, I knew I needed to make a change in the situation I was in. That was going to happen. And so it was just, how do I bridge that? How do I get to something else intentionally that is the right move for me?
Awesome. So when you walked into the Bridge to Fulfillment, what did you expect to get? And how has that experience been versus what you originally thought it would be?
I expected some guidance in kind of figuring out what I wanted to do next. I had heard so I was referred to you from a friend of mine, and she said, oh, there's just a lot of homework. So I expected some of that work. I think what really exceeded my expectations was the sessions with you in terms of the insights that you brought, the understanding that you brought. You have a great way of challenging me in a really compassionate way. You understand what this is like. You know what it's like to have gone through these things. You know some of the pitfalls, some of the hard spots. And so I just thought your coaching was exceptional. And so I don't think I expected that from the beginning. And then I'm an operations person. I loved the process and the structure that you had. So it was all grounded in different things. And so I wasn't sure what to expect there, but I really enjoyed being guided by a process that I could understand how one step led into the next. And then ultimately when we came at the end, I was like, oh, this is a very clear set of things that we've accomplished here. And I have a set of clear learnings that I have from it.
Awesome. What do you think, looking back on your journey, are you most proud of accomplishing, or you can look and see how this process and investing in yourself has shifted who you are, the way that you look at the world, and the results that you can create in the future?
I think knowing that you don't have to have all the answers and that you can show up in your own power and your own value. I think one of the things that you teach and that I kind of came to understood is what is that value? So do we spend time thinking about what our value is? How do we bring that to an organization? Who are we in an organization? And so all of those things were really helpful so that when you show up, then you can kind of be grounded in your own power and your own value. And so that's powerful in any circumstance, and then particular in looking for another job.
Awesome. I often say people come in with a very clear outcome. I want clarity on my value or my secret sauce, or I want to be able to know what that right next path is. And those who are in my realm long enough actually understand that, yes, you get those things, but really what I'm teaching are foundational skills for self-leadership, leadership in your career, leadership in your home, foundational elements to live a truly fulfilling and balanced and happy life. How would you describe what that process has been like for you in seeing some of those opportunities for your life that you can take from this journey together and continue to apply to keep creating more of what you want in your family, in your work, in your life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's that we don't have to follow a certain script. So there's kind of this work-life script that I feel like I thought I assumed I had to follow. And, work is one way. You're going to work hard. You're going to get a job where you work, I don't know, a lot more than 40 hours a week. And that's just how it is. And that's how you're going to earn a lot of money and all of these things. And so I think what you really showed me through this process is that script is made up. That's not actually true. It doesn't have to be true. And so we can kind of tear that up and throw that script away and really use our value and our gifts to focus on the things that actually do matter, and that you can do a job in 20 hours a week. You don't have to spend 40 hours doing it, right? So I think just knowing how and where to place our value and our time and our energy can apply in so many things. And we can really take a step back and look at the scripts that we thought were there and kind of look at them with more discernment of, is that true or is that not true? And then also one thing that kind of underlays what you teach is that things will happen when they happen. There's a path. You put the energy into things, you will see results. You will see things come to you. And so there's almost like a faith, like a resting that will happen. So if you do all the right steps, you do the work, you put things out there and you figure yourself out, things will happen, things will come through. So you don't have to jump at the first thing that comes by. You can wait until it's the right opportunity.
I love you saying that. I've had clients come through this process so desperate to make a decision that ultimately would have created a lot of chaos, a lot more work, and wouldn't have created the outcome that they wanted. Sometimes going through this process, it's actually recognizing, oh, I am in the right company. And now I actually know how to maximize or use that. Or a lot of the problems I was struggling with in my career, frustrations, lack of balance, I actually have control of that and I can solve them where I'm at. And then sometimes it is this, oh, okay, great. This is the path. And now I have time to be more strategic and intentional in that process. And in all cases, I see those as success because ultimately, the goal is to find your own personal fulfillment and how to create whatever that career in life looks like that makes you feel fulfilled and balanced in creating the goals that you want. And you said some things that actually I think are interesting to bring into the conversation. Every one of us grew up with an idea about what success looked like, either by conditioning of society and often by what our parents think. But very few of us actually know what that conditioning is or those belief systems. And we're just constantly operating within them and then creating those very limits to ourselves. Knowing that, right? You're a coach yourself, you're, a leader inside your organizations. What have you learned that you think will make you a better leader for your team or has changed your leadership style that you think will make you even more valuable inside your next role?
Let's see. I think really focusing on value. So throughout this process, we spent a lot of time looking at my own value and what do I bring and how do I fit and all of those things. And so as a leader and as a coach, that's something I've been somewhat trained to do, to look at in other people and how do we support others and how do we find and articulate their value. And so, going through the process, that's something as a leader that we want to do, that I want to do, is recognize and see and help encourage the value in other people and also to make sure they're in the right spot. So a lot of this work is figuring out how do I get myself in the right position and the right role that's right for me. And so being hyper in tune to that in others is important. You'll have a great team if you can have everybody in the right spot. So I think there's a lot of connections outside of the personal work with this that then can carry through into leadership roles and teams and outside of any job.
Awesome. For somebody who's sitting where you were several months ago and is like, I just don't understand, how does this work? How can you figure out what your secret sauce is and how do you do this? What would you tell them?
I tell them just start it, do the program. It's a journey and it needs to take time. And there's awakenings that will happen as you dive in. There's guidance along the way. There's structure in terms of the type of work. There's, for the people that like details and like really understand where they are in the program, there's like weekly clarity on homework and assignments and all of that. And so it's a step approach to kind of dig deeper each week, peel back a couple of different layers each time, and make connections that you probably wouldn't otherwise. So it's hard to explain the value of coaching if people haven't done it before or haven't gone through it. But, it's like if you play a sport and you go and try to play basketball and you've never played basketball, and then someone comes, it's like, actually, if you dribble this way, it's way more efficient. And based on my years of experience in basketball, this is how you do it. So, it's like anything. We don't often spend time on ourselves figuring out ourselves. So, and oftentimes, especially if we're women or if we're moms or we've been working a long time. I was guilty of this. I spent a lot of time and energy focused on the job. How can I do the job well? That was what consumed my mind space. How can I, serve my team well? My kids are busy. How can I help them? And so it's not often that we actually carve out space for our own personal development. And so I think it's important to do it. I've done it a few times in my career and I'm not done. I'll keep going and I'll keep, doing more and more of my own development. But I think it's part of the secret sauce of life is to have coaching and guidance to go along, because you just really wouldn't come to this any other way.
Yeah, it took me a long time to come to the same conclusion that you did, which, we have all those examples. I mean, they talk about it on a plane, right? Put your mask on first. The plane's going down.
Yeah.
Those of us who are servant leaders who really care about leaving the people, the businesses, the world better than we found it, often put almost all of our energy externally, not
Mhm.
really realizing that the investment in ourselves enables us to create far better outcomes for everyone else and ourselves. And so I think that's such a beautiful thing because in my corporate career in 18 years, my focus was like, how do I keep moving up? How do I keep making an impact and keep moving up? And I didn't really realize that to truly get and maximize my career and the impact I could have in my life meant that I had to learn how to do that for myself first. And the gift from that I've seen just consistently over and over again for myself and the people that come through this program is leadership becomes far easier, simpler. Their teams run better. They're able to be more engaged with their people, which create far greater outcomes for the organization with a lot less work. The things that maybe you wouldn't have seen, or you maybe would have ignored, or you would have assumed that's just the way things are, that now you can begin to actually problem solve work-life balance issues for your team or lack of clear expectations or areas where the organization is not as efficient as it can be. And I think these are things that I've watched over and over and over again happen for my clients as a result of doing this work that then position them to move up in their career without the sacrifice they would have had before, without the personal health, time, emotional sacrifice that I think in many cases, as high performers, we lose some of our best performing people inside organizations because they don't have this skill set. And it looks like if I keep moving, I have to sacrifice what I don't want, as opposed to being able to get the skills to keep moving up and do it much more efficiently and in a much more impactful way. What are your thoughts about that, knowing what you
Yeah.
do for a living and what you've experienced through this process?
Yeah. Yes. I can kind of say it quite simply. And I see this with my kids and I see it with work stuff that if you're not okay, they're not okay. And so it's really kind of obvious to me. So I think leadership is if you want to gauge leadership, you just look at the teams and the people around them. That's it, right? What's the job of a leader? It's to lift other people up. It's to help other people better, to move forward toward some mission or some goal. And so as long as you're taking care of yourself, like it's funny, my kids will tell me right away, they're like, oh, you're really grumpy today. And so if I am, they know it and then they're grumpy. And so it helps nobody. And so I think you really have to do the things that make you your best you. And we did a lot of that work throughout this process and program and learn some tips and tools, even daily practices that I'm doing to kind of stay focused on what are the things that sort of fill my cup. And I know it sounds a little cliche, but how do you do that? And I think the best leaders that I've seen, they do a good job of taking care of themselves. I've seen leaders, it's so interesting, get coaches, and then all of a sudden, like they're physically transformed too. So now they're taking care of themselves. They're working out, they're eating better. And so they're physically better and they're very calm. And so that inspires others to do better because you do okay when you know that the mom or the leader or the whoever is okay. That's kind of how people operate, that they're like, are we good? Oh, we'll just look at our leaders. Yep, we're good. Okay, let's march forward. And so I think that's kind of how I would simply put all of that. So the bigger view of it, like with this type of work, is that we take the time to invest in ourselves and spend the time so that we can be better and then we're better for everyone around us.
I love that so much. I've been actually having a number of conversations about this, having worked at 5 different companies throughout my corporate career and now seeing, to some degree, the inside of many different companies through the eyes of high performers, leaders who have gotten to a place where they need to figure out what's that right next career path, or they're burned out or have lost fulfillment for their work. And I think if you've never experienced a healthy work environment, you don't even understand the degree of impact it can make. And having experienced a range of that and seen it, what I believe so much to be true is when we understand and can honor ourselves and what we're good at and come from a place of collaboration and not fear and the ability to show up and do work, that it makes everything better. And so when you talk about this, like we're not okay if our leader's not okay. That's so true. I see that all the time. And I know when I was in corporate, I didn't believe or I didn't know how to influence my leader. And I think that that's such a critical skill to be able to understand, can I influence my leader? Can I influence this organization? Are these things changeable? And there's a skill set required to be able to understand that, right? And then there's separately like what's right for me and what do I need to succeed? And each person impacts one another in a really significant way, in a way I think we often don't talk about that. I think about one of the most challenging leaders I had. I moved into a role after I had been like the number two. I had run the number two results in the company for 2 years in a row. And then I got this job where I was being micromanaged by this woman who was literally reaching out to me on a Saturday to tell me to make something Arial font 10 when my team was working 70 hours a week. And I was like, why are we worried about Arial font 10? Like people are burned out and exhausted. And that experience of working for her was so difficult that I left the organization. And I'm thankful I left because it led me to write all of the great learnings that I had. But I look back at her now and I think here's a leader who was overwhelmed, a leader who was always worried that she wasn't good enough and somebody would figure it out. At the time, I didn't have the skill set to be able to support her and actually see if we could have shifted those things. I just felt so frustrated and micromanaged. But how out of balance her life was had a massive ripple effect on every single person on her team. And because she felt unsafe, we all felt unsafe. And it was one of those environments where it just constantly felt like no matter what you did, you were only good as your last result. And we live in a society now where the industry is changing so quickly. Our children's jobs probably don't even exist yet. And we're in an environment where we have to learn how to adapt and deal with the unknown. And we have technology that now does things faster than have ever been done before. And I just think about the importance of these skill sets of leading yourself, knowing yourself, leading your team, finding ways to challenge belief systems or old ways of doing things to be innovative. And I just can't help but think like the leaders who get this, who are doing this, these are the ones that are going to win. These are the ones that are moving companies forward. And those that don't know how to do these things yet, right? We have a responsibility to be able to assist them in doing that. And it's a huge part of my heart. I often say every single person that comes through this, I see them grow in so many amazing ways. And I know that the ripple effect is there because you now see yourself differently and therefore you can see the organization and your team differently too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's kind of a skill and an awareness that I think we develop over time, especially by working in different organizations with different challenging managers, different situations, different times where we probably all have imposter syndrome. But there's a skill in understanding, acknowledging that we don't know it all. We don't have all the skills. We don't have everything. I used to feel this way long, long ago where I was like spooked because other people were better at stuff than I was. It was like, oh man, I should be better at that. Why aren't I better at that? And then over time, and also through this process of understanding your own value, you can kind of pair that with a bit of maturity and experience and say, you know what? That's okay. That's not my job to know everything and be everything for everyone. It's my job to do what I can do really well. And then it's my job to see in others what they can do and help them do that the best that they can do and just get rid of all of the rest, which makes it better for everybody. So, you didn't have a manager in that situation who understood your gifts, even understood her gifts probably. And I've been in those situations too, but it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of self-reflection and it takes a lot to be okay with it. I used to not be able to do that and now I can. And now it's actually a gift as a leader. And you know what? I really don't want to be the smartest person in the room. Definitely not on the things that I don't know. And so, what a great leader to come in and say, I will do all of these things, but I don't know how to do those things. So I'm going to find the best person that can do it and I'll support that person.
I love that. And I think when you have that security and understanding your own value, the lies that your brain tells yourself, you've come to be able to actually process through what your experience has been and when and how you win. You have a vulnerability, confidence, and an ability to connect with people in those ways. And there's such freedom in that. I think often high achievers that haven't done this work, I know I raised my hand because that was me years ago, really struggle to do that. And a huge part of feeling the stress and anxiety in the job actually isn't the job. It's all of the amount of pressure and lack of comfort that you feel, and admitting the things maybe you don't know, or asking for help, or feeling like you know how to engage or develop your team in a way that they see you as a leader and don't judge you because you don't know everything. There is such a gift in that for yourself and your own ease and peace and joy in the work, but then to your point, for your team and enabling and empowering them. And I see organizations that create the best outcomes, are most innovative, drive the best solutions, are the ones where people do have that level of freedom and connectivity and honesty and the ability to feel like their voice matters. And so I've loved working with you, your skill set and your gift for people, and to be able to come in and really create that clear vision and move a company forward in times of very large growth or uncertain things is such a gift to so many people. And to be able to do that with a level of confidence and the ability to figure things out in the unknown is such a gift. I think we need so much more of that in the world. And so I'm excited to see where you go next and how you can continue to not just move the business forward, but help the people on your team, surrounding you, underneath you, be able to develop some of these skills for themselves too.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for helping me uncover it, because I think I came in thinking like, everybody does this, right? Like what I do, anybody can do, right? And you're like, no, it's actually not that common. And so really that pairing together of the operations side and the human side is really what I care deeply about. And so thank you for helping me see that. Appreciate you.
Yeah, same. It's a gift to get to do what I do every day. Well, with that said, lady, I'm going to wrap us up and I'll end with this. Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have? Or is there anything that's just on your heart that you want to share as a message to those that are listening?
I think we covered a lot, but I think I would share with anyone listening, if they're on the fence of whether to go through this program, whether to take the time to work on themselves. And it's an investment, right? Like it is an investment, but it comes back to you, and you'll never have the time again to really spend it on yourself and really do that deep dive. So I would say spend the time. You're going to cut this part out because I have something really amazing to say and now it just left my mind.
Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. You have.
Yeah. So, okay. So the one other thing I would say, and I think I may have mentioned this earlier, but really this was probably one of my biggest ahas, is just the power that you have to really control where you go. You don't have to sacrifice what you're looking for. You can be upfront for it, and actually you can be rewarded for stating what you want and clarifying what your needs are too. And that will only make you appear stronger. So I don't think I really looked at the job search that way before. And so that was really empowering through the whole process. So thank you for your guidance and your expertise and being so approachable and wonderful on this journey.
Thank you so much, Molly. For those of you guys who are listening, I hope you were inspired by what Molly had to share. I hope it's challenged you to think more about how you can create more of the career and life that you want. What Molly says about recognizing that you have the ability to create what you want in life, I think is probably one of the most powerful lessons I learned in this journey, and has continued to be reiterated over and over and over again. We end up unhappy in our lives because we think that we are trapped or we have no other choices. And that's often because, like I said, we just can't see the full picture. We don't know how to do it. And that's part of the greatest gifts about putting yourself in environments or investing in yourself with people who've done the thing that you want to do, is the ability to truly expand that understanding and then create that trajectory that you don't know how to create on your own. I wish I had understood this decades ago when I sat in my corporate career trying to figure out all of this on my own. And yet I also realized if I hadn't, I couldn't be here today doing what I do. And, my hope is that through my journey, through Molly's journey, through the other people that you hear on this podcast, that you begin to open and expand your mind about what's possible for you. So until next time, have a great one.